We don't usually get a big crowd. Once in a while.
We'll call our meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, June 12th. This is a regular monthly meeting of the Austin City Planning Commission. We have one item, open public hearing on our agenda tonight, but before we get to that, I'll ask the commissioners if you've had a chance to look at the minutes from our last meeting, Tuesday, April 10th. Any changes, additions, corrections?
Just a comment that the minutes are outstanding.
Very good job. I noticed that, very detailed. Yes.
Absolutely, very detailed.
I make a motion that we accept them as written.
Motion by Commissioner Mino to accept them, minutes.
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Burrows. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And thank you for the compliment to our minute taker.
First item, only item, to consider an application from Jared Hatley. 2006 4th Avenue Northwest, Austin, Minnesota, for an 800 square foot variance from City Code Section 11.01 Subdivision 1, limiting the total aggregate area of all accessory structures to 1,000 square feet for properties under 1 acre located in an R1 single-family residence district. Petitioner is proposing to add a 1,000 square foot storage building.
Yes, so as you noted, this is a variance for an accessory structure, variance request. The property is located at 2006 4th Avenue Northwest, and is labeled as subject property on the overhead and in your materials. You should have a map with that property indicated. So that kind of shows you, I guess, the neighborhood in general, kind of the feel of the neighborhood, how big the lots are, how close the properties are together, the kind of street that they live on. The property, as noted, is zone R1 single family, and there's a single family residence located there right now. There's also a detached garage that they have on the property that measures approximately 800 square feet. Excuse me. The party is requesting the variance to construct a 1,000 square foot detached garage in addition to his existing garage, so he still had 200 square feet to work with, but wouldn't be able to build the structure that he wants or needs with that 200 square feet. So he asked for a 1,000 square foot structure that would require an 800 square foot variance. The property in question is about a half an acre. The structures that are currently located on the property, with the addition of 1,000 square foot additional detached structure, would cover approximately 16% of the property. 40% lot coverage is allowed, and that's the maximum. The Planning Commission and City Council would be deciding the variance question, so this is a recommendation to the council. The criteria that the Planning Commission should consider is whether the variance is in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the zoning code, whether the variance is consistent with our comprehensive plan. This area is zoned residential, the garage is a residential use. That the applicant has established that there are practical difficulties in complying with the provision, and that the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the provision. So the practical difficulties are defined as the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, which those things could be, for example, the size of the lot we've talked about before. The location may be more rural, or maybe the properties are more spaced apart. There may be some geographical issues like slopes or wet areas or shoreland that they have to contend with. The variance will not permit any use that is not allowed in the zoning district where the affected land is located. So, you know, the variance couldn't allow a different kind of use. That's simply, the variance will not alter the essential character of the surrounding area. So we don't want to make that area more commercial-like or create any additional burdens on the surrounding properties. And then just a reminder that economic considerations alone shall not constitute an undue hardship or a practical difficulty if a reasonable use of the property exists under the terms of the ordinance. I think we covered pretty much everything else that I have, and I just have a couple of photographs which were also included in your packet. Oh, and then I do have some members of the public here who may want to speak, but I also wanted to let you know that we sent out about 50 notices for the variance, and we got, let's see, I had one in-person visit, I had 2 phone calls and 2 emails from neighbors who expressed some concerns. And let me grab one of the emails. I'll just read the emails for you. I received your recent notice regarding the application by Jared Hatlily for a variance at 2006 4th Avenue Northwest. And I'm unable to attend the meeting scheduled for June 12, 2018. However, I would like to give you my input. Excuse me. It is my concern that the building to be erected would be very large and could possibly be used for commercial purposes. This is a residential neighborhood. My property is directly across the street. I believe it may affect the value of my property to have an oversized building erected. It certainly will affect the aesthetic value. I would request that you not grant a variance to Mr. Hatlily for this project. And the other email I got, let's see. Read that the Planning Commission will review variance requests on parking for proposed, oh, whoops, okay, never mind. This is different. Not the same. Okay, so subtract 1 email. So we've got 4 conversations instead of 5. The concerns expressed by the individual in the first email were similar to the concerns expressed by the other individuals I had contact with. I did take a picture of this with the truck in front. One of the neighbors said that that he ran an overhead door business, like a garage door business, and that was he was using the existing structure for that business, and that they felt that this was an expansion of that use. I haven't talked to him about that, and he's not here right now to say one way or the other. But then this is just an additional photo of where he might locate the garage, or where he would intend to locate the garage. So it would be on this street here. He would be locating it in this area. There are potentially other options. I'm not sure how economically feasible, but if he had an attached garage, it wouldn't count as towards the accessory structure limit. So if he had something that, you know, went in this direction potentially, that might be allowed, or might be another option for him. Do you have any questions?
Does he plan on having access from the roadway to that? Then would it be off from 4th?
He did not ask for that.
So he's just going to...
My expectation would be that he would extend his driveway, you know, here. But he has not indicated whether he would, how he would access it.
So we have no drawing as far as where on the property or what the building would look like in any way?
No.
Is it within the same framework in terms of height and as his garage, I wonder? It's not like, I mean, I'm picturing some sort of pole shed that might be taller. I don't know. Is that?
He didn't provide any drawings or any plans.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend we hear from the public and then we can debate a little more.
Okay.
Yes, this is an open public hearing, so if there's anyone here who wishes to address the commissioners, welcome time to do so. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Charles Inger. I'm at 604 20th Street Northwest, and I'm kind of down the street just a little ways from you. I have some issues that I'd like to ask the commission about before you do anything on it at all. You said it was a 800 square foot building. Well, that's not what it says here. To add an additional detached storage structure that would exceed the 1,000 square feet limit by 800 feet, that's 1,800 feet.
I can explain.
Yeah, maybe.
So he currently has, so your limit is 1,000 square feet.
That's the limit on the
Yep.
building, yeah.
And he currently has a structure that's about 800 square feet.
He's gonna build a structure at 800?
Correct.
No, that isn't what I'm reading.
No, he wants to build 1,000 square foot structure.
1,000 plus 800, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because
But he had 200 already kind of,
Okay, so then it's.
to work with.
1,600 is what it amounts to, then I suppose. Is that correct?
it'll be about 1,800
Yeah.
total square feet.
1,800 feet would equate to a 60 by an 20 or 30-foot building.
No, for the
Good
two
size.
structures. He wants to do a 1,000 square foot structure.
On this one, yeah, it doesn't say
Yeah.
that here, that's why I was wondering.
Yeah. He currently has an 800 foot structure, square foot structure. He wants to do 1,000 square foot in
800
addition.
Square foot, the garage?
The current garage is about 800 square feet.
783.
Okay, fine. The other day when I got home, I witnessed the delivery of some, I believe they were garage doors. It was, this was located at the 2006 4th Avenue Northwest on the 5th of June that I noticed this. And it was a long enclosed car trailer, whatever the items were in there. I can't see their garage doors. They were being removed and put into the garage as it is right now. Now, I don't know if that was, I would assume they're garage doors because it said so on the vehicle that was delivering them. And I thought, well, if that's garage doors, at least you should know that. And my question is, what is the intended use of this building?
I don't think we know that.
Well, I think it should have been on the
Yeah,
application for the petition or variance.
He can use the building for whatever he wants to store there. I mean, he can't run a business out of his house, but he could store garage doors in there if he wanted to.
He can
It's his-
do that.
Yes, it's his garage, but he can't run his business
Okay.
out of the property.
All right.
So if he's having, deliveries there, I would argue that's not appropriate. The delivery should be, made elsewhere to a business.
Well,
But if
I
he,
mean,
if he wants to do some storage, I can't necessarily control what you store in your garage.
Well, what I'm getting at here now is that garage doors that are being delivered there, for sale to people and so forth. I don't know, is that what he wants to use this new building for, or is he going to use the existing garage for it, or what? I don't know. There's no cars, I don't think, in the garage because everything's parked on the street, so I can't tell. But I think that this additional detached storage structure sounds like more of a warehouse. I don't know, it's pretty good size. And if that is a warehouse for property or things being sold for people, for their garages and so forth and so on, it should be, that makes it a commercial venture, I would think, and should be located on a commercial property. I don't know, we're talking residential here now, and this is kind of pretty far-fetched from residential. I'm not criticizing or anything or not, because the man isn't here to identify or talk to me about it, so I really don't know.
I guess I wish we had more information. If the variance, can you put requirements?
Yeah,
like
there can be conditions on the
conditions,
variance,
I mean?
and if you need more information, it can be continued to the next meeting as well.
It just seems like we're not clear on what what his intention is, and whether
Yeah, I'd like
that,
to at least know what the intention, what he's going to store in there, because if it's garage doors and stuff like that, like you say, I think that is intent for commercial business, not just storing things like vehicles and so on and so forth.
Yeah, in his application, he indicated that it was, let's see here. He says storage for boat, trailer, camper, mower, and lawn furniture.
Well, if that's what it is, then that's no problem, I don't think. But if the variance would go with that, that would be fine. But the way I'm looking at it here now, from what I've seen, and I like there again, I can't talk to the man because he isn't here. But at least right now, I think I can oppose this variance and petition as far as it's being granted. Now, that would be my, unless I can see more reason not to. But it looks like a commercial venture to me. I'm sorry.
okay, thank you.
And it was brought to my attention that we do have in our code that a requirement that the exterior of the garage match the house, the existing structure,
Okay.
or at least the neighborhood. So in some areas, they have accessory structures that look a little different than the primary structure, but in this neighborhood, they seem to be pretty similar.
Can you clarify trying to get a sense of the size of the existing garage? Is that a two-car garage?
Yes,
Yeah, I would say you could get you could use it for a two-car.
It is two-car. I
There
drove
is-
by there this afternoon.
Okay, and there
And
is,
it shows that in the picture, too.
yeah, there is a
Pictures.
picture that shows the van kind of parked in front of
Yeah, I
the
just
bar.
can't see the other
Okay.
side. I can see one opening, but I can't really tell from the angle.
Doesn't look very, it doesn't look like there's a lot in it from that picture.
So he did specifically state what he intended to store in there?
Yeah, I was looking at the application and he did put, what I had indicated about
Yeah,
boat and lawn furniture and kind of ordinary things that you would have in a residential area.
okay. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak from the public? And if you would also state your name and address?
Well,
Thank you.
I'm Carmen Tribbett. I live 2 blocks over, but I received this, and I really came for information because if I'm reading this correctly, it's 4/5 as large as you normally allow, and I have no sense of how big that 1,000 square feet is. But if it's going to exceed your variance by 80%, I just wondered why, if that's a common thing, and why you would do it. So I'm not, it's a very nice neighborhood, and there's a nice lot there for it. However, that I misread it when I first got the letter, and I thought it was going to be almost in my backyard. And I thought 4/5 larger. I didn't think that I would like that in my backyard. So I'm not coming to petition one way or the other. I'm just coming for information. Is this a common thing to do, this kind of variance?
We get several requests, but I don't categorize them as, I don't know if it's common. I think it's, so he didn't provide the actual, 1,000 square feet, is that?
No, he
Maybe
doesn't
by
have any
50?
plans drawn up at this point.
So thank you.
Thank you. Byram, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to draw our attention back, I think, to what the focus of the issue for approving a variance is. It's certainly important to recognize, listen, and give consideration to neighbors' opinions, but we need to delineate what opinions really are focused on this issue versus other issues. So a couple of thoughts that I have. One, 1,000 square foot garage is roughly, it's a little bit smaller than 32 foot square. Common sized garage on a lot of lots if that's their single garage, and that's why 1,000 square feet was chosen as the accessory structure size, because it's common. So what's the problem here is that you have one existing already, and now you're going to add what would otherwise be the largest commonly used garage size that's available under our zoning code. So I think it's appropriate to consider that it's an 80% increase. I think it's important also to consider whether there are other options, and what's interesting about our zoning code is it does not count garages that are attached. So in theory, you could attach this size garage because you're not exceeding the overall lot coverage. If it was an attached garage, you could make this work. If they wanted to attach the current garage by doing an addition to the house that absorbed that garage in some way, they could build this garage and not exceed other development requirements and without needing a variance. So I don't know what way that cuts, but it's an interesting thing to consider that the change in his plans could allow this to happen, and then the question is how much more absurd is this than what he could do completely legally. The history and background for why we have an ordinance about accessory structures is that people started pushing the envelope and they started to build pole sheds and massive structures and things that really didn't fit in a neighborhood, and that started to change the character of neighborhoods, and so the process was initiated to pass an ordinance that set these limits. And that's important when you're looking at this, because you have to think the public policy behind the ordinance is to control how much people are allowed to build, how many accessory structures, how many total square feet can they have, not just looking at overall lot coverage. So this would exceed the total square footage allowed by 80% because they're both detached garages. Issues that are interesting to consider but really aren't before you is questions about the use. The applicant stated that he's going to store personal belongings in there, lawn furniture, a boat, things of that nature. Giving him a variance for a garage does not in any way allow him to carry on an illegal neighborhood business out of that garage that otherwise would violate other provisions of our code. So if he does that, there's enforcement mechanisms for that. If he's running a business, technically running a business, then I would encourage neighbors to complain and notify Ms. Wallace, and she could take a look at it, and he would be violating our ordinance whether or not you give him this. So I don't want you to go down the course of being concerned about what he might do in that building that might otherwise violate the ordinance. With or without this building, if he's doing that, he's violating the ordinance, and you can rely on that. The fact that the applicant isn't here tonight is disappointing because you don't have an opportunity to ask him questions about where he's going to construct it, how tall it might be, how close to various points, or how access is going to be provided, or any of those things that might be important when you're looking at this as far as traffic patterns, access, sight lines, those sorts of things. So that's disappointing, but you have to operate on the limited amount of information you have. So I would encourage you to just make a decision based upon whether you think this meets the variance requirements or whether it doesn't, and not get distracted on use comments.
You could add the condition that it not be used for any commercial purpose, although he has indicated that it won't be. Certainly could do that. But as Mr. Byram said, I mean, that is assumed that it won't be used for something that's not allowed.
Right. But there are, the ordinance is in effect if it was noticed or that was happening, then action could.
Correct, we'd have to get some kind of complaint in order to investigate it, and then investigating it is sometimes difficult to know what for sure they have behind a closed door. you know, we don't have stakeouts usually.
Mr. Chairman, if I could address the board.
Yes.
I'm opposed to this basically on the number 3 requirement of the variance. As Mr. Byron noted, he could do this without a variance. And so, you know, it's only because it's detached that it's even coming here. And I do have a real issue with the essential character of the surrounding area. Now, I believe somebody could build a garage that would blend in there, but I have real concerns. It is a nice neighborhood, as Mrs. Tribbett noted, and I think having 2 detached garages just detracts from the area. So I'm opposed to this.
I'd like to add also, I would oppose this just based on the lack of information, without having a conceptual diagram, any kind of detailed plans, or the ability to clarify with the homeowner tonight. I just can't see that there's enough information for us to act on this in support.
Okay. Anybody else from the commission? Any questions? I think there are, we could, if we continued it for clarification, or decide on the basis of what we have, I think is.
Correct. I would agree.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a recommendation, a motion that we recommend to the council to not approve this variance.
Okay. We have a motion not to approve the variance from Commissioner Mino.
I second that.
And that should be, you should add the
Points of
taking into account the requirements for granting a variance.
as part of your motion.
Okay. So, I will.
Okay.
Include number 3,
Okay.
and specifically number 3.
Okay. And did I hear a
Second.
second from Commissioner Caparell? Any other discussion? All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion, the recommendation to the council then is to not.
To
approve
deny
that.
the variance.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the variance will come to the council on Monday, following this meeting, the 18th, at 5:30.
Okay. Anything else for us?
No, I just mentioned that we have a 4th Avenue Fest tomorrow in Austin, which is developed through our planning commission and work of a committee, also in conjunction with a consulting group on public art and placemaking and making our public spaces more open and accessible and providing more art in Austin. And it starts at 5:30 tomorrow if anyone's interested.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion for Commissioner Stewart to adjourn.
Second.
Second, Mr. Burrows, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.